What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 67 of Nintendo Noise, Split Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Chuy Plays.
Hello, hello.
Almost said it. I almost said Steven, but I didn't. And of course, we're also joined by Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Goodbye.
How's it going, gang? We are here for a very, very Pokemon-centric episode, so we are very, very Steve-less. I think after the the God of War episode that I did with Max, I think just broke him. He sat there quietly for like 40 minutes while we talked about it, and he's like, never again, you know? So we are here, of course, to talk about the good, the bad, and the buggy around Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So let's just jump into it. We're going to start the conversation off with our, we'll say spoiler light impressions. I think it's pretty impossible to talk about a game that's non-linear without any level of spoilers, right? But we'll do our best to keep it top level here. So if you haven't checked out the game for yourself and you kind of wanted to just come and gauge everybody's thoughts, you'll be able to do that in a spoiler-safe environment, I'd say. So, Sierra, let's start with you. Which version did you get? How far in are you? And how are you enjoying the game so far?
I got Scarlet. Why did I almost say Violet? I got Scarlet. I was locked into it like a long time ago before I knew of any exclusives, but I'm still really happy with it. I'm enjoying it. I love my red land Toothless. I am 11, 12 hours deep, maybe 13.
Okay.
15. I'm
Chewy's
sleeping.
looking.
It says 15.
Wait, what? Oh, that's right. You could see. I forgot. So, I'm not very deep into it. I played so much, streamed so much of it, like from release day to Sunday, and I'm not gonna be able to stream it again until next week. So I can't advance the story. I've just been grinding. What was the third question? Sorry.
And then just,
about how generally?
how are you enjoying it so far?
It's got funky stuff, but I love it. I love it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, so Chewy, then how about you? What version did you get? How far in are you, and how are you enjoying the game so far?
I got Scarlet. I don't know how many hours I've played. At least 20 by now. So I'm up there. As far as how far I am, I think I've finished half the gyms, most of the Titans. I think I have one left, and then only 2 of the Starfall base things. I'd say most of the way through at this point. I think I've gotten half or more, or just over half of everything done now, and thus far same. It's real buggy, real funky looking at places, but my goodness, is it fun. I just keep playing. It probably took me so long to get to like the main story stuff, just because I was like, they threw the whole dang Pokedex right at us from the get-go. So
I know how you play RPGs. You take your sweet time. You know, you want to leave no stone unturned. That's your style.
I love digging into it, and it just people tell me, they're like, "Oh, I got through this game in like 50 hours." I'm like, "Okay, so my time will be double that for sure."
So you both have highlighted that you're enjoying the game, but you've obviously experienced a lot of bugs. I think that's the elephant in the room, right? The Don fan in the room, as it were. I'd like to hear about your individual experiences with it several hours in at this point. Like how often are you experiencing those kinds of bugs and technical issues? How much are they impacting your general enjoyment of the game?
It was more in the beginning, weird rendering glitches with like lighting, shadows, models, things clipping into the ground, seeing beneath mountains that you shouldn't be seeing underneath, under which are just nothing. It's just nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed it way more in the beginning. Now it just like I see it like here and there, But I will admit I am so engrossed in the gameplay loop that I maybe that's why I'm not noticing it as much.
You just start to ignore it after a while. For me, it's like a consistent, like off in the distance, there's something flashing and appearing and disappearing and just like constantly just like whole terrains just like flashing away for a second and then coming back. And I don't know, it's a constant thing, but up close things are mostly they just like it's lots of slowdown, lots of frame rate the dips and things like that. So that's like most of it up close. Definitely have seen a few sunken Pokemon here and there where they just kind of like fall into the floor like half like an inch or two and I'm like, "Oh, they got some weird hole that they're in, I guess. I don't know." But yeah, just like lots of little things here and there. And the lighting is like bizarre, but I'll get to that as I get to some stories about catching some nice Pokemon.
So, I won't bury the lead, gang. I haven't bought the game.
Wait,
Whoa.
what?
Yeah. So
What?
yeah.
All right. Which
I
version were you gonna buy?
I was gonna get Scarlet.
Uh-huh. Scarlet
And
Gang. That's what I got too.
so here's and I see the reactions, and trust me, it's been a struggle for me, but I gotta say, I think this might be the one that breaks me. Cause like I'm in such a tough place with this right now because going into the game, we had a conversation a couple weeks prior about how I was not feeling the same level of excitement, right? And it wasn't until the leaks came through where I was like seeing more of the new Pokemon and kind of like getting tastes of some of those things that I really started to get excited. But seeing the really, really mixed reaction on launch day, like really killed my enthusiasm to want to start the game. And when it went, like when it came time for me to actually like plunk down the $60 and start it, like I am having such a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of stopping playing God of War, which I think is my game of the year, so that I can jump into this game that is broken, and is like in such a state that I like should not have shipped this way, right? Where even the people that love it, not one person doesn't have to have the qualifier of like, well, except it doesn't run well, or and that's like the nice way, right? Because some people have had way worse experiences than that.
Yeah.
And the kind of nail in the coffin for me came from an interaction I had with I believe it's pronounced Cian Mayer, who is a games journalist who tweets about Pokemon a lot. It's a person I follow because he tweets about Pokemon a lot. And he tweeted this out. He said, "I have played every Pokemon game, laddered fairly high on Showdown, and learned most mainline entries pretty much inside and out via Nuzlocking. If you're on the fence, re-Scarlet and Violet, and have any burning questions you'd like answered before committing to a $60 spend, drop them here. I should preface this by saying that these are some of the weakest Pokemon games to date. That's not just because they're new either. I loved Arceus and Let's Go, and I'm much more fond of Sword and Shield than most. The issues with these games extend way beyond poor performance." Which, that context is like, that's very much my attitude about Pokemon, right? And like, I feel like I was pretty forgiving of the shortcomings of Sword and Shield and was, through the roof in love with what Arceus did. And I responded and I said, I really loved Arceus because I thought it offered some true innovation for the series for the first time in years. Looking at the commentary and issues around Scarlet and Violet, I feel deeply unmotivated to start them. Is there anything special here that makes these games worth your attention? And he said, not yet. I'm nowhere near finished, though. And that was between that and then seeing everybody in our Discord. I'm not saying that I'm never going to pick it up, but to stop playing a game that I am really in love with for a game that I feel so conflicted about, I just wasn't able to pull the trigger. And I wanted to,
Right.
Part of me was like, I have to play it. I have to come to the show ready to talk about it. And I just couldn't get myself there. And I wanted to come into this conversation and hear from the two of you, who I know are both really enjoying it, and kind of see how I feel on the other side of that. Because I'm very, very open to being sold on crumbling and picking it up this week. But
So, I I mean, I really like hearing what they said and kind of like wondering like what aspects of Pokemon do they appreciate the most, but they're not here. So, I want to ask you like what aspects of Pokemon do you appreciate the most?
I think when it comes right down to it, the games that I connect with the most are the ones that I think invite you to explore and reward you for exploration through experiences, if that makes sense. Like in the first two
Hmm.
games, I think the examples that I always come back to are like how you can interact with, something like the electric, the power factory, right? Where you catch Zapdos. And that's like a real
Hmm.
like Metroidvania type moment where it's like, you have to remember that there was a waterway here and then go there and explore this thing. And it's a totally optional thing. But if you go and do that, you'll discover all these Pokemon that you wouldn't have found otherwise. You have the opportunity to catch a legendary. That
Hmm.
is a good reward for exploration, right? I
Hmm.
felt the same way about Arceus, where it's very much like, well, I want to get through every nook and cranny on the map because I want to discover what Pokemon are here, and then when I get new abilities, I want to go back and try to like explore the rest of the map that I haven't seen and complete the decks. And
Hmm.
again, in Gen 2, there's like the whole, oh, okay, if I go to these spots on different days, different events happen. So that encourages me to go and explore the map and recontextualize it in all these different ways. And then, of course, combat, right? Like it's the turn-based battle system that has aged like a fine wine, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, those are the things that I like the most. So the idea of this open world Pokemon, right, is obviously deeply, deeply interesting to me. But
Hmm.
like the compromises though of like just
Yeah.
wanting it to feel like the game it should be and from the outside looking in, it's like I'm getting like the opposite of what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you get FOMO, right? When everyone's playing a new game and you're like, man, oh, I wish I was playing that new game that everyone's playing. It's like I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I don't know, guys. Like,
The opposite
Hmm.
of FOMO.
yeah,
So, I think what this game has is the adventure aspect to it. In the sense of like Arceus, I agree, really great experience, really fun to just like dig through that world and find different Pokemon and find just something cool around the corner, right? I think where this game succeeds in that is that I forget what the Pokedex was in Arceus, like 250 ish, almost
something like
almost
that.
250.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one almost doubles it. I think the Pokedex is 400. So there's like tons of Pokemon to get right from the get-go. And every kind of step of the way, you're unlocking stuff to be able to just dig a little bit deeper into that world and find new spots. And you're just running into Pokemon that you're like, whoa. I did not think I would be able to find that. Because I think one thing Arceus did that I was really appreciative of was just like, you know how you can never find like final evolutions, like third stage Pokemon in the wild in
Sure.
previous games? Like all that's gone. Like now it's like you can get wrecked by a third stage Pokemon here if you happen upon one, right? And that part of it's good. Like I think the exploration is there. I mean, it's definitely bogged down by like really poor performance, which is a bummer about it. But like it it's there. Like the structure of a really good open world Pokemon game is there. I think the formula is there. It's just the performance is not. And that's the unfortunate bit of it. The battles, I'll tell you, are not there. The battle, there's so much to like run around and discover. You're constantly over leveled. Your
Oh
Pokemon are just
no.
gonna sweep
Okay.
through
Yeah.
every single trainer. That the trainers have like one Pokemon, one maybe two each that you run into. So
And
it,
there's so little on every route. There's like
hmm
5.
Yeah, so there's not a lot in terms of battles. The gyms,
Ugh.
I haven't found anything really challenging there. Like
I've
this,
I've heard a
this
lot of
felt like
people say that
they
they really don't like the pre-gym mini games as well. How are you feeling
I
about those?
hate them so much. I don't know if
They're-
it's like
yeah.
accessibility or like what, but like I feel like even if that was the case, you can still make puzzles that scale or like I still have some like level of difficulty to
Mhm.
them, and it's not just like roll the ball.
Yeah, the pre-game things, they're whatever. They're not very great. And the gyms, I one-shot every single Pokemon in the gyms so far, and I'm just like, all right, I am too strong for this. I don't know how it's gonna get any better, but I'm just gonna keep going, right? So I'd say the battle part is missing from it. I do think they lean a lot. They just lean too heavily into the competitive player versus player stuff with Pokemon, right? Like it's just at the point where it barely exists, I'd say, in the Pokemon like solo player version, right? And so, but just like the exploration stuff, which was what I really liked. Um, I've seen a lot of little complaints about in regards to like the turn-based battles, especially I think from people coming from Arceus to Violet and Scarlet, just because it's like it's definitely slowed down. It feels like the interactions are a lot slower and stuff. But I did the smart thing and went into this game from Shield. I finally decided to go catch the Shield face dog legendary thing in Shield. And every step of the way, I was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is so slow and annoying, and like almost not worth my time. I'm gonna get this Pokemon because I'm here. I've finished this game, the league all these years ago, and never went through and finished this. So I'm coming from that experience, and I'm like, oh man, everything's faster. Even the Pokemon get caught faster. Like, there's so many more critical catches, or it's like it jiggles once and then you got it, and then even like the three jiggles, I'm like. I feel like there's no anticipation here. Like I'm not even worried about it getting out. It's just like caught, you know? So all of that feels like slightly sped up and a little bit better, but it still feels pretty ancient, especially for people coming from Arceus and stuff. It just feels very slow in that sense. And for me, I'm like, right now it feels normal because I came from the much slower Sword and Shield where every time my Pokemon lands a hit, it's like, oh, it landed a critical hit. It wants to be praised. And I'm like, no, like, just chill. You're doing your job. I told you to use
Doing
this
your
attack and you
job.
did it. Great job. Like, I don't need to tell you great job every single time. But for some reason, there's some text block. That's all gone here. So I'm already like happy with that. I think every once in a while they'll like hold on like with 1 HP if they're about to get knocked out and it'll point that out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but a lot of that stuff that was just like artificial slowdown is out of the picture. And for me that's like a step forward in a ways, but you know, Pokemon only takes so many steps forward.
Two
But
steps
yeah,
forward and two
exploration.
steps back.
Yeah. Exploration, I think it's good. It's really showing that like Pokemon Company is there with the formula. They're just like not there with the technical aspect to the game. And I mean that's about it. Like I think if you were to pick it up, I don't think you'd be too disappointed in like the exploration part, but like if you really care about the other aspects, the battling and stuff, I don't see that being especially fulfilling for you, you know?
So that's something I'm worried about is like it's in a lot of ways it sounds like it's just the experience I enjoyed about Arceus but stripped back in certain ways and then
Hmm.
expanded out in others, but it's like that's a hell of a trade-off, you know?
Yeah, I think they really should have kept the catching directly from the overworld.
Yeah, at the very least. At
Hmm.
the very least, keep that. You were developing those games at the same time. You kept
Hmm.
the right on Pokemon, but not that, which was like moment to moment, like the thing that people enjoyed the most in Arceus.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the mechanics were really like smooth in Arceus compared to here. Like you can still do the targeting thing, but it's just so finicky. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
target the Pokemon very well. You have to be like right up in their face in order to get a target at all. It's not good.
I have so many complaints about things they thought were going to be innovative or like quality of life improvements that are just nuisances.
Hit us. Expound.
Yeah.
The auto battling feature is annoying and it almost feels pointless. So, your Pokemon, like you send it out to auto battle. God forbid you step more than 50 feet away and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it comes back to your side or goes back in your ball. And it's not like there's many items in the area for you to find. Like there's nothing super hidden beyond the little like glimmers of like, oh, what's this in the grass. So you're not really roaming around and doing that much. So I feel like I just stand there and watch my Pokemon as it beats up a bunch of Skiddo and acquires like 23 XP per Pokemon. I'm just
Mhm.
like, hello. It's and they touted this as something that would like, like help with the grindiness, but like I don't know, like if you can't actually like explore at your own pace, like you're kind of confined to the range that your Pokemon can freely explore in, then it's like what was the point?
Yeah, like that.
Mhm.
That feels very reminiscent of like my problem with it. This is a weird pull, but Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the
Oh
GameCube,
yeah.
where it was like you had to
Mhm.
stay within the Moogle range, right? And it's just like, well, if I have to
Mhm.
do this, I can't really explore, right? Like that kind of
Exactly.
defeats the whole purpose of what we thought the practical use of that feature could be, right? That you could.
Sounds like you played alone. It was a lot better in multiplayer when somebody could actually carry that thing around.
I have heard a lot of people say, yeah, I did play that game alone. I have heard a lot of people say that the multiplayer in this game is actually good and actually works, but
Mhm.
that's
Um,
odd. Sure, great. Like,
okay. The multiplayer. I wanted to say real quick before I spew on about multiplayer because there's some really awesome things in it. Um, I feel like a lot of the systems in this game really kind of like try to tie you down to an area in a weird way, especially for like it being an open world game and it wanting you to go out there. The the auto battling is an example of that. Your Pokemon, like you step too far, they'll just come back. And I guess you can like keep throwing them at Pokemon on your path, but like they don't just like tackle and destroy everything while you're going, right? The I was specifically playing with the breeding in this game just before this, and it's just like it feels like such a held back mechanic in the way that it's like you have to do it through the picnics where you set up. You make your sandwich. My goodness, making sandwiches, wonderful, hilarious every step of the way. But you make your sandwich, right? And usually I'll choose like an egg power one because I think I'm having a lot more success with getting eggs. And then you just kind of like you sit around and you wait and then check the basket every once in a while and see if there's an egg in there. And sometimes it's like there's an egg, and other times it's like nope, nothing yet. And so and you're restricted to like a little circle area, your little Moogle thing, right, and you can't encounter any Pokemon during it. You can't explore during it. Like you just have to sit near your picnic and you can like run around in a circle and it makes me feel like it's going faster. I don't know if it does anything, probably not. But I just run around in a circle and then I check the basket and there's an egg and I'm like, okay, cool. And it just feels like it's a step down from the daycare. Like this is the first time they're changing the daycare, but like the daycare, you
they
drop
just
off
made
your
it worse.
Pokemon. Yeah, you kind of made it worse, honestly. You drop off your Pokemon at the daycare, you run around and do your own thing, right? And then just come back and check, and
Right.
then you're like, oh, cool. There's some eggs here, right? And now it's like you drop off your Pokemon, but you're also dropped off. Like you can't do anything. You're stuck in the daycare, right? And
So
maybe that's like kind of how people just did the daycare regardless because you'd set up, you'd walk back and forth in that same little area,
not when I was
eventually there's
playing the
an egg.
main game though is the thing. Like maybe if you're actively breeding, that's what you're doing. But like it
Yeah.
was nice to be able to just drop Pokemon off and then come back and grab an egg and
Hmm.
do your thing. Like I
Yeah,
totally agree
yeah,
with you.
so
That sounds like a definitely like a step backwards. It's nice that you
exactly,
can do breeding like while you're out in the field in
you can do it
theory,
anywhere.
but
Yeah.
that's like that feels like a step back. But Sierra, before we move on to, because I know Chewy, I know you said you wanted to talk a bit about the multiplayer stuff. Did you have other of those features that you wanted to complain about?
I have another complaint that pertains to battling. If you want me to pocket that.
No, go for it.
Yeah,
So,
tell us.
I hate the trash slice thing. I feel even more vindicated in that, like, catching them can be difficult. To catch them, they have to. Is this a spoiler if I explain?
I wouldn't
Like-
say explaining a mechanic is a spoiler. I think you're good.
All right.
I think it's fine.
So, to catch them, you have to get them down to like low HP. But this is so poorly defined. I have been able to break their trash lives mode or whatever in the yellow, in the red. Sometimes it like I got in the red and it didn't break. And it took getting them down to 1 HP, and then they killed themselves, and I never got it. So it's so annoying. Like, you should define, like, okay, if you get it, like, the challenge is to get it to like 1 HP or down to the red across the board, and then you can catch it. But it's a different experience every time, and it's really annoying for like a fucking a Diglett that can use Thunder Shock. Like, God damn it.
Yeah, I ran into that same thing. Actually, at first I was like, these things seem like kind of easy, and maybe I was just getting lucky or something because it just like kept working out for me. Like every terrestrialized Pokemon I ran into, I got it to the point where it would like break and I could catch it, right? And then the other day, yesterday, while I was playing, I ran into one, and it was a Pokemon I hadn't even seen before. And I was just like, "Oh, this is a brand new Pokemon, and it's already like a special one. Great, let me catch that." For the first time ever, it like I killed it, and I was just like, "Wait, that can happen?"
Oh, no.
I thought it was just like something that auto stopped before I killed it, and because up until this point, like it had just worked for me, right? And then that time I ran into it, I wasn't even looking. Like I was just like, oh yeah, I'm going through this battle, checking Twitter while while I do that. And then I look up and I'm like, wait, what happened? It's gone. And I hit the record button right away because I was like, literally like, what happened? And then I checked and I was like, these things can die? That's dumb. So yeah, I've now hit the part where I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's a challenge. That's a bummer. I thought it was just a free catch for me, but nope, apparently not.
Anything else y'all want to call out?
I will probably remember as we're talking about the game, because at the moment, nothing immediately comes to mind.
Okay. So, Chewy, why don't you go on your multiplayer spiel then now?
Multiplayer is dope. I love it. Do you remember just trying to link up with people and do raids in Sword and
It was
Shield?
a nightmare. Yes, I do
A
remember.
literal nightmare. So much pain, so many tears. Where you're just like, how do we even connect? Like, why is this not working? And no explanation whatsoever as to like why it was working or not. You know, like it just did or it didn't, and it was a real bummer. This game, easy as can be. You open up the menu, you hit L to connect to the internet, and you're automatically connected. And from there, like anywhere in the world, you can just access the Poke Portal and then make a group to play with people. And you can either like play with people, you can trade with people, you can do anything, all of it. But I've tried now the just like online multiplayer. You all go to the same place, you hang out, you're just like exploring the whole thing together. And so I'm just here going like, all right, you guys, check out this cool spot that I found where it's in the beginning section, but you couldn't reach it until you went to the school. But just jump over this cliff and then bam, level 50 Leafeon. Just like right in your face. I died against it, could not win. But yeah, it's really cool. Like you can just see all of your friends, like they're there. It feels like the most MMO. It's honestly the best multiplayer that Nintendo has put out there yet, like at least from like some sort of Nintendo game. Because it's just so easy. Like people can drop in, drop out, nothing is interrupted. at any point. Like you could encounter a shiny, people can like crash or drop out of the game, and it's not like Animal Crossing where everything stops to take some plane and watch this one person leave. You know what I mean? So they nailed it. Like they nailed it with the multiplayer, but the game's so buggy. Like I've crashed twice now during multiplayer. One time I was linked up with somebody who had Violet, and I'd caught like Violet exclusive Pokemon, and I didn't save that entire time, so I lost them all. And it was probably like an hour that I spent with them too. So it was a good while of
That's
just like
really
messing
frustrating.
around.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts. Like losing progress in a Pokemon game is so
Yeah.
devastating, because it's like it's all about what you find.
So in the end, I didn't lose too many that were like it was basically just like a mischievous. I think that I was like, oh, I can't get that until I trade for it or play with somebody who has Violet again. So in the end, it wasn't like too bad. Like I still had like fun with them because we were mostly messing around and just like seeing all the dumb stuff. We made sandwiches together. Hilarious. Total chaos. But yeah, you could do like literally everything in the game. Everything. Like you can go and progress your own story while in multiplayer, and people can all do like the same mission at the same time. It'll like do a separate mission for each person in that case, but like you can still basically just keep all of your progression as you play. So like there's so many aspects of the multiplayer where I'm just like, finally a Nintendo game that got it right. Just a Pokemon game that got it right and everything. So I really liked it. It did crash on me the last two times I've tried. One was after that really long session, and then the other was like I'd played with them like maybe 7 minutes, and then the game crashed, and I was like, "Oh, my game crashed. I'll come back, right?" But I honestly don't know if I want that fixed, because when I loaded back up, I turned around and there was a shiny Pokemon right behind my character at the last save, and I was like, I would have missed this had my game not crashed. So now I'm just like, all right, crashing good.
That's truly
crashing is great.
Truly the Game Freak way is when you have a glitch that becomes a feature. It's like I saw there's that thing where you can, if you have two Joy-Cons, or if you plug in a second thing, you can press them both and run twice as fast.
Yeah, great feature. 10 out of 10.
Goofy stuff like that. So we'll get more into the nitty gritty in a second here, but I do just want to take a second to remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to go and show your support like they did, get your name read on the air, get some perks and goodies, get our exclusive podcast, One More Thing, whatever, head over to patreon.com/flipscreengames. Or if you want to find links to all the places you can find us all across the web, flipscreen.games is our website where you will find our Twitch channel, our second YouTube channel, everywhere we are. We're there, flipscreen.games. Go check it out. And I am going to give you one final reminder that our Persona 5 Royal Game Club Episode 1 will be dropping very shortly. It's going to be on the last Wednesday of November. So if you haven't picked it up already, now's your last chance. Go grab Persona 5 Royal on whatever platform you want to play it on. Get to the end of the first palace, and I'll say this. It's to the point where you name your team. That's a nice spoiler-free way to tell you where we're going to stop. So get to that point and make sure you come and tune in for that conversation. All three of us, as well as Steve and Mr. Zaid Ida, are going to be on that show. It's going to be a good time. We're going to be doing it once a month, beating a palace. So come hang out, come play the game with us, and be a part of the conversation.
And it took me a lot longer than 4 hours to do.
Yeah,
as a new person to the game.
I got to tell you, I looked at my clock and I'm at like 8 hours or something like that. So I don't know.
Okay.
It's pretty long. It's pretty long. But, it's a great game. So you should play it.
It flew by. Highly recommend.
All right, so before we get into some more Pokemon talk, I do want to give a bit of a news update here. So I saw this story first get traction over on the Pokemon subreddit, where user Sell Out Hipster made a post 4 days ago explaining how he got approved for, or I should say they got approved, for a eShop refund for their Pokemon Scarlet pre-order. So basically, they go on to explain about how saying rather than boring, they say, without boring you with all my gripes about this game, I just got my money back for Pokemon Scarlet. A lot of people don't know this, but Nintendo will, on rare circumstances, offer a one-time refund for you. Here are the exact steps for anyone unfamiliar. And I'll give you a link down below if you want to go check it out for yourself. But essentially, you go to Nintendo's customer support, you can make a complaint that the game doesn't perform well, and you can likely get a refund. A number of people have said that it's worked out for them. So, if that is something that you want to do, of course, that resource is available to you. I know there are some people in our Discord who are trying to sell their physical copies. I don't know that you'll be able to get a refund on that, but if you did buy digitally, you can do that. The reason I wanted to bring this up, I think, was honestly less to provide the resource and more to just kind of bring this up and I guess like address the cyberpunk shaped elephant, right? Of like, this is a bad look. Like, this is like
for sure.
the worst looking, and not like visually, like I just mean the state that it's launched in, right? Is like, I don't think there's been another first party Nintendo game on Switch that has had this buggy of a release.
No, not that I can think of. Not that like it can be so widely panned across social media and like so unanimously criticized.
Yeah. I can't think of a single one. Like, this is literally, I think, just the worst performing game to come out of like something that like Nintendo has some ownership over, you know?
Yeah.
And I've been wondering, like, this whole time, on my walks, I'll do like little chats with friends and stuff. And I'm just like wondering what Game Freak, what the Pokemon Company is going to do about this going forward. Because, like, I don't know how much this is hurting their bottom line. You know, like, I imagine a lot of people still bought these games, a lot of people haven't gone out to get refunds, and they're still making a ton of money, right? And that is ultimately what they're setting out to do as a company. They want to make a lot of money, and them getting that reinforcement of like, oh, it doesn't matter as much as people say it matters because they've already bought the game, they're playing it, and it's fine, you know. But I wonder at what point does Nintendo like step in, or some other outside force kind of step in and say like, you guys, like, we acquired Monolith Soft, like, let them do something to make these games run better and look better and all of that. Like, what I wonder if they're going to ever accept kind of the resources that are available to them, because I'm like, I don't think this problem should exist for them outside of like.
I'm going to use this as a jumping off point for one of our listeners, Trendy Brendy, who wrote in and said, so the big Poke fan has something to say. The opening of this game is abrasive, disgusting, and quite frankly, embarrassing. If performance is at all a problem for you as a gamer, steer far away from Scarlet and Violet. I'm not sensitive to FPS drops personally, but I do raise an eyebrow or two when lighting and set pieces get reloaded. And that's something both of you called out, right, in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't help that the intro to this game is so long. According to the Pokemon Company's own estimates on their site, it takes about twice as long to get to the free-roaming portion of Scarlet and Violet than it does to get to the wild area in Sword Shield. And while Nimona and Arvin are genuinely interesting characters who I'm itching to learn more about, I'd prefer to talk to them about their interests more than how to catch Pokemon. Ultimately, once you get to the Pokemoning, it's some of the best I've had. Raids have run super well online somehow, like you said, but the 3-year development cycle is clearly not sustainable going forward for this franchise, and I hope all this discussion leads to a re-examination by management to lighten the load on Game Freak and give them the time to finish these projects properly.
Yeah, like give them more time or add more people to your staff, expand your development team. Because it's ridiculous. You're the Pokemon Company.
And it's like, that's part of my thing, right? Like, you know, I won't lie to you. Like, part of my desire to not pick up this game is that like I feel angry, or it's like, man, like what Chuy said is the thing, right? They put it out in this state because they knew they could.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that sucks. Like, this is the most profitable video game franchise in the world, right? Like, it spawned countless merch and all this multimedia franchises. And, like, man, like, I have so much Pokemon crap. We all do, right? Like, we all have Pokemon toys in the background of our shots right now. It's like, I love Pokemon, and I want to love Pokemon so much, and they make it so hard. Like, it's the only franchise that I care about this much that, like, when a new game comes out and I'm excited about it, I have to give qualifiers, right? Like, it's good for a Pokemon game, or, it's the step forward, but the next one's really going to be the good one, the big one. This is going to be the one we were waiting for. And that's what this game was supposed to be. And it sounds like content-wise, in a lot of ways, maybe it is almost that game, but, like, the thing it can't even achieve 30 FPS. Like, it's like, come on. And I've seen people blame the Nintendo Switch, right? And it's like, it's not the Switch. Xenoblade runs on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on.
Another point that was raised, not necessarily pro Pokemon Company, but a point that was raised to me throughout playing the game this weekend was, or Game Freak has always been like shit at optimization. But I just think that at some point after the switch to 3D, that they would want to make that splash with the first open world game and get it right. It's not even, by the way, not even necessarily open world because of the way the gym's still level scale.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's a whole other thing, right? Design wise, there's all these problems, but yeah, and I honestly don't think that's a fair argument, because it's like yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Game Freak are the most accomplished developers in terms of, like, especially when it comes to, like, HD, right? Like, that's something that, like, I think it's pretty clear that they need to beef up their talent pool there, and like, that's a conversation that I guess it's like obvious that the need is there, right? And like you bring up studios like Monolith, and you see the stuff that those people are capable of on Switch, and they brought that talent to games like Breath of the Wild, and like that's another game with a beautiful, expressive open world. And it's like, why can't Pokemon have that? And like, I think to Trendy Brendy's point, the 3-year development cycle is probably the largest part to blame. But like, there is also the argument that like Game Freak is not, like, for years and years and years, the only kind of game they made was top-down pixel RPGs, right? And like, those games all ran great. Obviously the first games notwithstanding, they have their fair share of bugs, but that was also, their first major release, and that game almost didn't come out. So that's a whole other conversation. But you look at, from Gold to Black and White 2, I'd argue all those games run really well. It's not until they moved to 3D models that they started really having this issue,
Right. And I guess like it's definitely not, the dev's fault. Like, if you're not equipped with the tools and the resources you need to deliver like a game that runs effectively, then it's just, you kind of just do what you can. So it's kind of just looking at like the powers that be and being like, why wouldn't you want to put out the best possible game? You're representing an entire like IP, like a franchise.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's weird because like I think it's a mixture of like, who do I place the blame on? Yeah, I place it on the Pokemon Company. Like, video games need longer development cycles than 3 years to be big, giant AAA open world games, right? That's, I think, just the truth. But there is also like, I guess, if they had better development cycles, would their teams have more time to develop those skills and to get more comfortable with 3D design and all that stuff? Maybe. But I also think it's like, why are you not bringing in new talent? Why are you not poaching people who can come in and advance the technology in the studio and advance the tools that you're using? And, like you said, Sierra, give the people on the ground the tools to make something that looks better and runs better and makes better use of the hardware, right? Like, we have we see that like Monolith goes and does this on like almost every big Nintendo game. You know, like they have their fingerprints on so many, maybe not every, but they have their prints on so many games of just being a support studio and getting in the trenches and like helping games look better and run sharper. And it's like, it's clear that Game Freak just cannot keep up with this pace anymore, you know, and like it's worse and worse, right? Like every time, like this is the worst performing, worst looking Pokemon game at launch that they've delivered on the generation. They're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we just don't know who is in charge of these decisions. Who, like, because they're doing it to themselves ultimately. Like we didn't need a new Pokemon game this year.
No, that's the thing that's
Arceus
so
was already
frustrating.
so much fun. Arceus, had they just waited till this holiday to release Arceus, like that game was already really fun. They could have fine-tuned it, made it run nicer, because that one has problems. Like that, all of these Switch
It's
games
ugly,
have like
right?
performance
Like,
problems. Yeah, like it can use some improvements. Like had they just like waited that out a little bit, I don't know why they felt the need to rush like a Diamond and Pearl remake release, because like a lot of stuff wasn't ready when Diamond and Pearl came out. They still had like updates for the game going forward and things like that. And I'm just like, they're doing this to themselves.
it's like, why
where
did you
I'm like,
rush 3 games out in the span of 18 months or 12 months even? Because Diamond and Pearl came
12
out in
months.
November. Like, it's
12
like,
months,
there's
yeah.
3 $60 Pokemon, 4 if you count both versions, $60 Pokemon games that are the same kind of game, basically. Arceus a little bit of an outlier. It's just so ridiculous. Like to your point, like Diamond and Pearl could have come out last year, and they could have been rushed out if they had just put them out as they were, whatever, right? They still sold incredibly. Arceus could have been the big game this year, and then you could have put it out next year, and you could have had 3 much better games for it, you know, or at least, you know, maybe Diamond and Pearl wouldn't be better, but like it would have had longer to sell, you know, like it's just weird because it's also like they put so much marketing budget behind the worst game of the 3. You know, like there were so many commercials and ads for this game, and like, you know, where was that for Arceus? Like, it seemed much lower, right? Like, it's strange. It's very strange to me. It's like it's like the textbook example of an unforced error. Nobody needed you to shove this out right now.
Oh man, I'm looking at Monolith's like website. They've touched so many things. Animal Crossing, Splatoon 3, Breath of the Wild, like huge games for Nintendo. Splatoon 2 as well, both 2 and 3.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they even started helping like on just 3DS games even. And I don't know. It's just weird to me that the resources are there. Like I don't think that it's for lack of resources. I definitely don't think it's for lack of time, because like honestly they do that to themselves at the end of the day. Like they're
I mean, that's the thing though, right? Like
that's
it's like it's just so frustrating that like when is enough enough? Like Pokemon already makes so much money. Like you need to like shove this out to like make even more. Like come on. You know, it feels so blatantly greedy at this point, you know?
Gotta hit those company OKRs.
It's so gross, you know? So, and you know, we were talking about the hardware of it all. That Doc Guy, one of our Patreon producers, wrote in and said, due to the technical issues in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, do they lead you to believe that we might be getting a 1.5 hardware upgrade for the Switch due to the current Switch barely being able to handle it, or maybe even a new generation? You know, we've talked about this a lot. I think a new Switch is imminent, but I don't think that's the problem. I think it's that Game Freak is bad at optimizing software.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't think that this game represents something that's like, oh, it's just so ambitious that the Switch can't handle it, right? Like,
God, no. No.
it looks like a GameCube game, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I want to know what the background to this is, because like we've heard great stories of people coming in and helping them out, like Iwata, you know, like the whole Pokemon was saved by him early on.
Gen 2, the only reason that the whole Kanto post-game thing exists is because of Iwata. Because like he came in and like they were having trouble getting the game to fit on a Game Boy cartridge, and he compressed it so much that they could add all that content.
Yeah.
They've never had the technical chops as much as they've had the creative chops, you know?
Yeah, and I'm just like, where is that person who's like coming in and saying like, let me help you guys out?
It's like, why aren't they hiring new blood, right? Because it's like there have to
Mhm.
be so many talented Japanese developers who are our age, who grew up playing Pokemon, who would love to go in and be like, all right, like, let's do this right. Like, you know, like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
it just,
I
I
know.
don't understand it. It's so hard to wrap my head around that you have this IP with unlimited, untapped potential and a basically limitless well of goodwill from fans. And they're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll just keep cashing them checks, baby. Like, that's it?
That's it,
Oh, man. So,
man.
one of the things there were so many comments in the Discord about people's experiences, and some of them were wild. I think my favorite though was Wakahula's the journey that Wakahula went on. One of our Patreon producers, where his first comment. I don't know if this was the first thing he posted, but I pulled a couple that like I thought represented a very funny back and forth he had with this game. He goes, bro, did they outsource this game? What's happening here? Did they work with only new staff on this title? Is it because Masuda stepped back? I'm so confused. What's up with this game? And then a little bit later, I cannot believe this. I think this is the type of Pokemon they should be doing from now on. The performance issues are annoying, and there are numerous animation and loading time issues too, but the feel of the game is something new. You go through a tiny village on your way to the academy, and I felt like there were people living there. It's not as pretty as Sword and Shield was, but this feels more alive due to the open world style. I'm only 2 hours in, and I'll probably update later, but I'm having fun so far. Again, the performance issues are really obvious, and I hope they can fix them. Then he comes back, posts a bunch of videos with examples of the jankiness and says, this honestly feels like an MMO beta. I'm playing, and then right after that goes, or a little bit later, I'm playing Arceus now, and oh damn, is this game far superior. I checked in on Sword and Shield just to make sure. Both games run at a stable 30 FPS and look significantly better. I'm sad. And it's just like the highs, the lows, the highs. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
can you guys relate to that? Like, is that because like I think the thing I want to before we wrap up here, right, is like you both have said right at the top, I'm really enjoying this game, but have also had so much to rag on it for. What is it that makes it work for you anyway? Like, what is special about this game? What makes this? Is it just because it's another Pokemon and you were in the mood for another hit of that sweet, sweet dopamine? Or, like, is it, like, doing something different and significantly unique from Arceus that is, like, making it stand out for you?
So for me, I it is mostly because like it's a new Pokemon game, and for me, they added enough like new stuff for me to be engrossed in like the world. The other thing is like going into this game, I was logged off of Twitter. I knew like almost nothing. So it was fun to go into the game. No, go into the game, not the tutorial part, which should be skippable. That was the fun. Should be skippable. But like going into the first wild area. Oh my god, there's so many different kinds of types of Pokemon you can catch here. Holy shit, didn't know that one would be in this game. What the hell is this like mushroom rock? Like I like was discovering a lot of new things that like I just didn't know to anticipate. So I think that helped. I disagree. I kind of so far I like the designs of the cities in this game better than Sword and Shield. Because I
Okay.
think about the second to last gym, Piers, the dark gym leader in Sword and Shield. He like that whole city was in a shipping container. So whereas like I would have loved to see more like that more fleshed out, like a
Yeah.
dark like Gotham like city, instead of it being like a trailer.
Oh my god, give me a fucking Pokemon game with a Gotham City. I want Batman as a gym leader now.
Right. He should've-
All bat Pokemon.
Yeah, it's for real. Not Zubat.
Yeah, he's got Crobat.
Yeah, so I do like the character design and the world design better, but I don't know. Like I also have yet to get like really deep into the game. Um I wish like the gym battles were more substantial too. I don't know. The
Yeah.
the challenges like Wakahula said, but
Hmm.
I still like it and I'm gonna finish it because like it's a new Pokemon game. Um I am hoping that what I enjoy now will sustain me through the experience. And worst case scenario, if I like end up hating it, then it's just like, all right, we'll take this L, hold this L.
No worries, there'll be another one in 6 months, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I gotta head out real soon, but I'll say I think the adventure aspect is there. I think that part of the formula they're nailing it. As you'll get the gym stuff not as interesting. Starfall I'd say falls second to me. I think the Herba Mystica storyline is pretty sweet actually. Like it's got some cool ideas going into it and I'm like, "Oh, this feels like kind of just a really cool part of the adventure to the game, and I think I've faced them more of a challenge with those than any of the other things. They're still pretty easy, you know, and obtainable, so it's not like an incredibly challenging thing. But I think the story that goes along with it is like, oh, this is kind of like nicer than some of the other things. But yeah, I'd say there's some they got to play around with some of the stories and do some cool things in regards to that. The gym stuff, I'm like, let me get to the Elite Four when maybe somebody will will be some sort of challenge, you know.
Yeah, right.
Um,
that's such a bummer.
yeah, but yeah, I'd say as far as the exploration goes, catching them, finding, running into shinies and stuff is exciting. There's a little bit of downgrade because they don't like sparkle or make a little
Yes.
sound like
So
Arceus, but
annoying.
you do see them at least in the overworld, so there's that. And the lighting stuff makes it really hard because I found like a shiny Skiddo, and at first I was like, this thing just looks weird. It doesn't look like the shiny. Maybe it's like the weird shadow slash sun going down right now, but it just didn't look right. And so I encountered it because I was like, you just look weird. I'm gonna see. And then it was like I got the shiny sparkles after that, and I was like, sweet, my favorite Pokemon. So yeah. But yeah, I'd say adventure, good. The rest of it needs some work. But I'm probably gonna try to catch them all in shiny hunt at the end of it. So that's where I'll be.
So, real quick before you jump, when it comes time for Game of the Year, Arceus over this though, right?
I think Arceus will still land over it.
Ooh, okay. Sierra's that doesn't look so sure.
I
But
don't know.
but I'm also I'm open to seeing it because I like I said I haven't finished it quite yet,
Sure.
and I've heard that like some people after they finish it, they're like, oh, I kind of want to play the other version and see how things play out
Huh.
in that. And
Okay.
I'm like, that is an interesting comment to make, you
It
know?
is.
Yeah. So yeah,
They're
we'll see
like,
how
oh,
I feel at the
9
end.
gens in. What if we gave you a reason to buy the 2 games? You know, like.
I might, and I might be closer than you think for liking this a little bit more than Arceus, just in the sense of
That's
like
interesting.
there
Okay.
are, I really do like a lot of the new designs more than I thought I would
Okay.
initially. Like I've even warmed up to the starters like Final Evolutions, which leaked earlier, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I'm digging what's going on here. So I'm warming up to a lot of the Pokemon. A lot of there's some new ones that I'm like, yep, this is one of my new favorite Pokemon. So
Okay.
yeah, they're solid
Huh.
designs.
Yeah, I'm really torn, honestly. Like this conversation has not swayed me in any direction. It's made me just like
Same.
feel more like, damn,
Still
I really
torn.
don't know what to do. I think I need to just buy this game and try it, you know?
You might have to.
I think that's gonna have to be the way.
Yeah.
Maybe you
All
could
right,
borrow it.
I gotta drop out.
All
You
right.
guys are
You do your thing,
amazing.
bud.
Bye, Chili.
See ya.
Bye, bud. All right, here we're gonna switch to the flip screen games background while we finish the show because I don't have a 2-person Nintendo noise screen. So sorry, everybody.
All right.
All right. So any final thoughts, Sierra? Like if you had to give me like one more like pitch, like what, like should I pick it up? Should I go get it? What do you think?
I think that it feels like this has become less of a will you enjoy the game and more of a this is kind of an ethical issue, and
I'm
it
a little
feels
torn up, you know?
yes, this feels more like an ethical issue rather than like, oh, will I play the fun monster game? I don't. So, if firstly, I would recommend this to anyone who has time to kill. It's a luxury. If you have time to kill and you can play this game and you're not playing anything else right now, get it. It is fun. It is fun.
Okay.
And like if you're a person that's not really that does just straight up doesn't care, you're not gonna give a crap about like the glitches like that. I wish I wasn't cursed with caring. So there's that. Secondly, I do think that I think I do enjoy the ability to sequence the game how I like. That is really nice. But like you still can't go outside of a set order if you want to um have an easy time. Um the fact that I can completely avoid like the essentially the Team Rocket stuff is a nice luxury. Um you have to find a way around it because there's parts geographically where it's the next town you need to get to is gated off
Okay.
by the Team Starbase. So that presents a challenge, but I like that. And then like lastly, um I think it's fun to just like see the new Pokemon they've created.
Of
Like
course.
it's just like, you and I have been playing it since Gen 1. So like it's that like, classic like catch 'em all, battle the gyms and beat the Elite 4 thing. Like of
There's something
course it's
special about
yeah.
finding the new favorites, you know? Like I saw
Yes.
the new Wooper evolution and I'm like, "Oof,
I love
that's
Quagsire so
I
much.
love him.
See, like
Love him."
things like that. Like you do still find like joys even through the messiness. So it's worth hanging on
So what you're
if
saying is
you love
Pokemon games are a lot like life. You
wow.
got to find the magic, right? Like you got to find the fun.
Exactly. Wow, you still have to find the escapism in the thing that provides you the escapism. Um, so like if you imagine that you will forgive Pokemon somewhere in your heart after this atrocity, it may be worth it may be worth still picking up the game.
You know me so well.
Yeah, as a person who like has loved Pokemon her entire life, like of course I'm fucking locked in for this ride. But yeah, get it if you have the money to burn and the time to burn and you just want to see some cute little guys.
I do want to see some cute little guys. You know I love
Yeah.
cute little guys, you know?
But like I think that if you are on the fence and you can write out the FOMO period, if you can write out like the
Yeah.
first like 2 weeks, then you're golden and then you can just pick it up when you feel like it.
And like maybe we'll get a patch, right? Like
Right, we got a patch for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl eventually.
That's
right?
true. I think there was.
So
Yeah.
maybe eventually. I really don't know. Like, I guess the best way to hit them is their wallet. Get a refund if you want, but
Yeah.
also being loud. A multifaceted attack. Um,
I'm gonna buy
know.
the game just so I can get a refund.
a nice tease. You're not hitting Q4 numbers, baby.
Gonna hit him where it hurts.
Yeah. But yeah, I still got a lot to go. I'm still having fun. I'm still itching to play it. But yeah, skip it if you can write out the FOMO.
We'll see. Who knows? Maybe by next week I'll have picked it up, and then I'll have a whole.
Yeah.
I'll get to bitch about it for a whole other week. You know.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm sure we'll talk more about Pokemon next week either way.
For
Because I definitely want to
sure.
hear more about how you and Chuy are getting on with it. And we'll see how that ends up. But All right, so thanks everybody for tuning in for another one of these episodes of Nintendo Noise. Remember, if you want to find more content from us, if you want to support the show over on Patreon, if you want, whatever you want to do, if you want to come join the community right into the show with your experiences with Pokemon, just like everybody from the Discord did this week, you can hit us up at flipscreen.games. That's our website where you'll find links to all the places we are, everywhere all over the web. So, for the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. Chewy was here earlier, but now he's gone. And, Steve is somewhere on the British Isles, you know. I don't know. He's out there gallivanting, but we'll see you next week. Take it easy.
Try to